All right, welcome. Oh, you know what? Let me turn down the fan a little bit. We had the furnace person come to check the furnace today, and they turned it on and left it on, and so it's nice and extra warm up here, which is why I'm in this room instead of the other room. So tonight's class, we are talking about understanding your genetic potential. And what I'm doing is I've taken 3 talks from Laura's Brilliant Live that she does on Monday mornings, and am combining them. So I would highly recommend that you go and watch them in full, because they've got some really great stuff, and that's like 3.5 hours almost plus stuff that we're going to cram into an hour. And the other thing is that welcome if you're listening on the podcast, because I got my first podcast thing up, because that's what my nieces told me. They're like, we listen to podcasts while we drive and everything, so if you do it on a podcast, we'll listen. So haha, yay. All right, so the three classes are understanding your genetic potential with essential oils, and that's with Dr. Nicole Stevens, and that date on that was April 19th, 2021. And then the next one is remodeling your DNA with essential oils, and that's with Dr. Hill, and that was last Monday on October 11th. And then Q&A with Laura Jacobs, it's the follow-up to Dr. Hill's call, and that was this Monday, October 18th. So you can go to discoverbrilliantsolutions.com and go to their the Brilliant Live, I think it's called, and you can watch them there. You can also go to the Facebook page, and if you have any trouble, let me know and I can send you the links. All right, so I have got lots of pages of notes. Aha, we got 2 people in the waiting room. All right, okay, welcome. All right, so I am hoping that I can take all this information and make it combine, as well as making it fun. And so one of the things, like when I first heard like DNA, when I was in high school, science was not my best subject. And so I always get a little thrill of like, whenever I think of like having to do science. And so one of the things I really liked is breaking this down so that anyone can understand. And my background is in early childhood development. So it works really well because I'm good at breaking things down to a simple level. So, starting with Dr. Stevens, she is in charge of research and development, or clinical research, and she's also in charge of creating blends. And so she talked a lot about epigenetics. And the first time I heard that, it sounded familiar, but I had no idea what it meant. It had something with, genetics. So I thought maybe it was like an epidural, so you're blocking your genetics. It's not quite that. Epi means upon or on top of, and genetics refer to genes. So literally, it means, turn the page, something having an effect on our genes that can change the way that those genes function. And so in the past, we've talked about part nature, part nurture, and it's not necessarily a 50-50. Oh, you know what, let's do this. It's not exactly a 50-50 split necessarily. And so it's looking into the expression of genes. So the expression of genes is what the genes are doing. And so she said, life is like a box of recipes. You could do that like Forrest Gump. Life is like a box of recipes. So you've got thousands and thousands, and you've inherited some from your grandparents and some from your mom and your great grandma, and they've been passing down generation to generation. And so you have this recipe box of thousands and thousands of recipes. And so you have the recipes to make anything under the sun. So you could have like main dishes and salads, breads, desserts, whatever. But, and as someone who cooks, I can attest to this, you don't go into the kitchen to make every recipe in your recipe box. There's not enough space, ingredients, etc. So my dad he enjoys collecting recipes. So he'll go and look at different recipes that look like really interesting or fun and stuff. And so we've got binders full of recipes. So we have 3 binders that, and my dad's very organized. And so every binder is split into categories. So like 1 is appetizers, 2 is breads, and then appetizers is broken up into, like cold appetizers, warm appetizers, breads. And for like under F, you've got foreign dishes. So you've got Mexican and Italian and all these different things. And he's super organized. And so you can flip right to it. So that's really nice. However, you still wouldn't go to the kitchen to make every recipe in the book. But there's a lot of fun recipes. And so sometimes you want to mark recipes. So that's kind of like what my dad does as he's going through the internet, looking at these recipes, collecting them. And he's like, ooh, this one looks really good. I think we should make this. And so then he has, so the 3 binders are our family favorites, the ones that we've made, like they're the ones that we've grown up with. And then we've added to them as well. And then he has found like these really neat recipes, like with fresh ground wheat, and it's like 12 grains. Our neighbor gave us the recipe, and it's honey and nuts, and it's just really delicious. And our neighbor is a chemist, and so it's really fun to read his recipe, because instead of cups and ounces and stuff, it's grams. And so it's like so many grams. So it's very, very exact. So you have all of these recipes, and what that is like depending on the recipe you make depends on the situation when you go into the kitchen to cook. So you might be going in to just make dinner for yourself, or you might be cooking for a huge party. And so that's going to change what you cook and how you cook. And so let me see. Okay, so DNA is the instructions for your cells. So the same DNA will give the directions for the brain cells as well as the cells from the heart. So they have the same set of instructions. So why would they be different? And so that's like the layer of the epigenetics. So there's different layers. So lifestyle changes how cells functions with layers. And modifications. So she goes into, because this is her specialty, she goes into a lot of detail, and it's very interesting, and it's not easily for me to repeat exactly what she said. So I would highly recommend going in and watching that. But she talks about, so, so going back to your recipe box or your recipe book. So you mark, you've got your favorite recipes, like, oh, I love this one. And you try something new and you're like, oh, that's great. And then you've got ones that like they come from like your grandma, and it's like it's not that good, and you really don't ever want to make it, but it's handwritten by your grandma, so it's like an heirloom, so you don't want to throw it away or anything. So you mark it as like do not use and put it in the back so So you don't throw away any of the recipes, but you mark the ones that you like and you mark the ones that you don't want. So that is like the first layer, like a layer of modification with the DNA, so part of the epigenetics. And she talks about all these different layers. And so I'm going to simplify things instead of, because she goes through like the layers, and then there's different types of tagging and all that sort of thing. And so I'm going to let you explore that on your own. So the histone condensation is basically the way that you organize your recipe box. And so it's what genes to copy and our enhancement, and genes to ignore are suppression. So one of the things when you go and make a recipe, you have to say, okay, can I make the recipe? Do I have the right equipment? Do I have the ingredients? That sort of thing. So all the different ways to change the expression of the DNA is, so as you're going through and marking things and changing things, you're not changing the DNA, you're changing how it expresses. And a lot of this is due to lifestyle. And that's something that both Dr. Hill and Laura talk about as well when we talk about their classes. Here's the example of, yeah.
If I hear you right, and if I understood them right, what you're saying is your DNA expression can totally be changed on the basis of your lifestyle, right?
For the most part. So they did say at one point that, there are some things that cannot be changed, but for the most part, lifestyle and providing that nurture can change the genes. I mean, well, it doesn't change the genes, it changes the expression. So it lets it either like, so this is the example I was going to give. So inside of me, I have the genes to be really tall. Hey, Sheila, can I have you mute yourself? Sorry. Thank you. So inside myself, I've got the genes to be really tall, like over 6 foot, because my great-grandfather was 6'4". However, his wife, my great-grandmother, was 4'8". And so in my family, in my genes, I have the genes to be anywhere between 4'8" and 6'4". And so part of that of why, so I'm like 5 foot, almost not on tippy toes, but it's close. And so if you look at my height, I'm barely 5 foot. My brother is 6'3". And so in the same family, we have the same genes, but they're expressed differently. So one of the things, and so like and if you look at the grandkids, I've got grandkids that my one niece is finally a little bit taller than me, which she's very excited about. And then I've got nieces and nephews that are 5'10". The girls are 5'10". The boys 6'1", 6'2". They're getting tall. So one of the things that can affect the expression of genes is the lifestyle. So when we're talking about the growth genes, this isn't something as an adult that I can start eating a specific food and start suddenly, if I really start stretching and maybe, being tortured on the rack, I might get a little taller. But for the most part, there's not something that I can do right now that's going to change my current height. However, if you look at childhood, what was your nutrition? So her example, she said, well, let's say that, we didn't have enough to eat growing up. She's like, we did. But like for me, one of the things, so I was a preemie, and I was like 4 pounds, 10 ounces. And I had a difficult time nursing. And so part of that can explain why I might not have had the resources to grow to be 6 foot tall. And so partly from my genes, but also partly from my experience as well as lifestyle. So part of it is going to be as you grow up, and other parts are going to be something that you can actually change the expression of your genes. So you can modify by like daily actions. So that's what you eat, how much you sleep, exercise, stress, and essential oils. And it says we can strengthen the current cells that we have. And so where do the essential oils come in? And they come in as modifiers, and they help modify the expression of the genes. And so now I'm going to, but she was saying it's a fairly new science. And so there's not a lot of research on it yet. They're researching it, but because it's a fairly new science, it's not something that's got, decades of research, but they are researching it. So now I'm going to switch from hers to Dr. Hill's class last week. And it's really interesting because he starts talking about essential oils and the genetic expression or suppression. So, and he talks about when he first met Dr. Stevens. And so he's finding that they're researching specific oils with DNA markers. So frankincense, it was able to identify and help the body correct DNA remodeling within the body. So that means that it can go in and basically it goes in and addresses the cell and says, okay, is it so well enough that it can help help the body heal itself, or is the cell damaged enough that it needs to go and it helps the body produce the apoptosis. And he talks about that a little bit later, but he said that lifestyle is the #1 thing. And he said the essential oils help the body identify, react, and respond appropriately and control the expression of the body. Expression is the key. Illness is not something, you didn't have before, but became dominant. So he talks about how after convention, he ended up getting sick. And he and Laura talk about quite a bit about how when you get sick, you're not necessarily catching something. If you're exposed to a virus, you might have kind of like a virus's information. And so you might get like an information update that may not be really great for your body. But basically, you have the cells, like he said, you have cancer cells in your body at all times, but they're not dominant. And so it's when the lifestyle and other things, the genes that you have from your parents and grandparents, it's when things line up that that the cancer then becomes dominant. That's when someone gets cancer. But it's not like someone gets cancer. Laura talked about with strep. A lot of times when you think of strep, you think of you catch strep. And she talked about how it's actually, strep is part of the flora, is it flora? Yeah, flora in your gastric system. You have strep there as part of the digestive system. But what happens is when you are exposed to the certain circumstances, it then expresses it and it changes it from the strep that is helpful to one that becomes dominant. And because it's not acting like it's supposed to in the system, that's when you get strep or whatever illness. Okay. So let's see. Okay. So, okay, essential oils can prevent expression or promote expression. Let's see, which is what we're going to talk about in the next video. So also, so this is Laura's thing. So that basically, so the preventing expression or promoting expression is similar to, there's only two things that go wrong in the body. You either have too much of the wrong stuff or not enough of the right stuff. And so because of that, that can be you've got too much of the wrong stuff, so it prevents or it prevents expression of the positive thing or promotes expression of negative stuff, or you've got enough of the right, you've got not enough of the right stuff, so that it doesn't have, like we were talking about the recipe, you don't have all the ingredients, so you can't make that recipe. So that's when you have those problems. All right, so frankincense promotes protection and healthy expression of and promotes apoptosis in unhealthy cells. So that's what we're talking about. And Dr. Hill was talking about how he really feels that that essential oils are part of what the body needs. That like the body has needs as part of the lifestyle. And he said that more and more he's just realizing that essential oils are a need that the body has. And the other thing is that he said that he's wanting to avoid the oils being mystical or having magical properties or being curative. And instead, the body has an amazing capacity to heal. We just we just need to give it what it needs. And essential oils are part of what the body needs. So one of the things that I really liked about this is what we've been working on, having our language for the last several years. So, you know, speaking from a wellness point of view. So we're talking about homeostasis. You'll hear me all the time talk about homeostasis and when we're talking about the wellness pyramid. And he talked about how he has I guess at convention, he had a new wellness pyramid. And it sounds like they changed some of the words. I could not find a picture of it. I only had the picture from the Live Guide of the previous the previous pyramid. In fact, let me see. Yeah, this would be a good place to throw up a picture. That sounds really nice. Put up a picture of the.
And then it wasn't so much changed as was a couple of them were expanded on a little bit.
Oh, is that what it was? Okay. It sounded like yeah. So it was more like instead of rest and manage stress, it was, I don't know, he said something else, and reducing toxic load was expanded also. So, but the bottom, so here's our health pyramid. So the bottom one is eat right, then exercise, rest and manage stress, and reduce toxic load. So those are all lifestyle. And that's mostly what Dr. Hill and Laura were talking about, is that by focusing on the lifestyle, then you can avoid a lot of other issues. And if you do have the other issues, that's when you have the informed self-care or proactive medical care. Like I always say, if you break your arm and your bone is sticking out of your arm, do not put deep blue on it. You can put deep blue on the way to the hospital. You want to make sure it's time for some proactive medical care. If you've got if you've got things that are not supposed to be sticking out, go get some help. Alrighty. Well, let's see. Alrighty. So, let's see. Anyway, so now I'm going to switch over to Laura's Q&A class that we had on Monday. And so she talked about changing the conversation in the way that we talk about essential oils. And really, what she was talking about is what we've been trying to do. So it's not using disease names, but talking about, coming from a place of healing. And so that's why there's only two things that go wrong, either too much of the wrong stuff or not enough of the right stuff. That is, what's going on, and that lets your body be the one that heals. Because the essential oils, that's one of the things that Dr. Hill was trying to say, is that it's not that the essential oils heal, it's that the essential oils promote the body to heal, because it's the body that's doing the healing, which is how we were divinely created. I love there's a talk that I heard one time, and the person was talking about our bodies and how we are divinely created, and he was talking about how if there was an explosion in a printing press, you would not think that you'd get like a updated encyclopedia that would come out magically be from this explosion. And that just makes me smile. So I think that's hilarious. Okay, so the first part that she talked about is talking about Dr. Hill talked about like the woods and florals and how they're really good for the skin. And anyway, so this is kind of funny. She was talking and said, okay, so for a conversation, it really helps to have more than me so we can have a conversation. So if you've got something that you really feel passionate about saying, or you want to ask questions or anything, or you feel like you can really add to the conversation, just let us know and join in. Let's have a conversation. And so one gal, Allison, got on, and anyway, no one else got on, no one else. And so because I volunteer for anything, because just try to be helpful. Anyway, so I texted in the chat, I'm like, if you need another person, I could do it, but like I don't need to. And immediately I got a message saying, you've been promoted to presenter or panelist. And okay, here we go. So if you listen to that, you will hear a familiar voice because I talk on it. And so at the beginning, we talk a little bit about the two rules, of Laura's two rules: too much of the wrong stuff, not enough of the right stuff. And she was really spent a lot of time talking about the importance of changing our conversation. And so it just made me really happy that we've already been working on that. And that's part of how I've already been teaching, is that, it's all about homeostasis. And that's why the oils are adaptogenic, right? Because the same oil that you use for stuff that's moving through too quickly, you also use the same oil for stuff that's not moving through fast enough.
Can I add the word balance? Balance.
Mm-hmm. Yes. No, yes. Yeah, it brings balance to the homeostasis. It brings balance to the body. And so, let's see. I got distracted. Anyway, so the reason that we want to talk that way, the reason that it brings balance is because, like we said, it's the body doing the healing. It's the adding the essential oils is adding letting the genes express themselves by adding the positive lifestyle of adding essential oils to the mix. So one of the things that we were talking about that I brought up is I find that if I have a visual, even if it's just in my head, I remember things much better, and I kind of think in pictures, so it works for me. So when I think of genes and gene expression, I kind of picture like this wall of switches, and I actually picture in Star Wars when Obi-Wan is sneaking around the back and he's turning up switches to turn off, and he's turning things and moving that. That's kind of what your body is doing. It's not that you suddenly have so let's say, oh, okay, let me back up. So Laura talks about how, let's say that you've got a woman from like in the 1940s that smokes, and she smokes her adult life and gets pregnant and has babies. And so she smokes, and then the children are exposed to secondhand smoke their whole childhood. And so what happens is that the genes are then like told, like, okay, so air is toxic, so you need to be really careful, and you shouldn't be taking in too much air because it's not good for you. And so then that third generation ends up having breathing issues. And so she talked about her husband, that was his situation. His grandma like smoked, and his mom grew up around secondhand smoke. And so when he was born, he had asthma and was having issues with difficulty breathing. And so the thing is that with the lifestyle and the essential oils, that is something that is able to help those the genes express the correct things, so that your body knows, oh, air is really a good thing. We want to have air. So there's that. Let's see. The other thing that we Laura mentioned was that you look at a lot of these epic the epic stories, so Star Wars or Lord of the Rings, and you think of, Obi-Wan or Yoda and Gandalf the Grey, and how they are like upgrading, up leveling the hero and helping them grow, and presenting the better parts. And then she mentioned Kung Fu Panda, which is my favorite because Poe is my spirit animal, because I feel like I'm a spirit panda. I like that show. And so what he finds out is that he's like, there is no secret sauce. It's just your belief. And so I think that a lot of times it's not like there's a secret sauce that makes us like, that will fix us. It's the lifestyle. It's a bunch of different things to help us so that our genes are expressing positively. So, and then the other thing that they talked about that I found to be really helpful was they talked about how, let's say that you've got like a fish pond in your backyard, and after a while you end up getting mosquitoes, and so you get this spray and you kill off all the mosquitoes. Well, the stuff the poison that you use to kill mosquitoes gets into the water, and then the fish die, and then the fish kind of float to the top, belly up, and they start decomposing, and then other animals eat that, and they get sick. And it's just like this whole snowball of negative effects. And it comes from trying to get rid of the mosquitoes and trying to kill them off with a chemical, rather than saying, okay, so why do we have mosquitoes? Well, it's because the water's stagnant and there's no movement. And so instead of addressing the root cause, which is the stagnation, you're trying to fix the problem with something else, which is very much what kind of Western medicine versus Eastern medicine, where it's, you know, here, well, take a pill. One of my favorite shirts that I saw one time was, I take this medication for this condition, which causes this problem. So I take this medication, which causes this problem, which I take this medication. And at the very end, it says, because eating healthy is just too difficult. And I just think that's awesome. And I can relate with it because that's, you know, it's a journey. And so we turned the conversation to the importance of detoxing. And so doTERRA has the what is it? Is the Cleanse and Restore Kit? You know what? I have got this right here. I love it when I'm prepared, even if I don't know I'm prepared. All right. Okay, so here we go. So here is in reducing the toxic load. So why cleanse? So it helps steer metabolism, support healthy weight, improve digestive function, improve elimination and natural detox process of the body, supports the nervous system, and increases energy. So one of the things that is important when you are going to be detoxing and getting rid of stuff in the body is that you want to make sure all of the chimneys are open. So you want to make sure that all of the processes of elimination are working, because if they're not working or if they're sluggish and you start to add things to help detox and you're kind of plugged up, you're going to have a very miserable time. So one of the things that the doTERRA's 30-day cleanse is that it supports that with that in mind. So you start out, the first is a 30-day cleanse, and so days, so out for the entire month, you're going to be doing the Terrazyme, the lemon, and the Zendocrine detoxification complex, which is not the oil; those are the capsules that have the herbs. And so days 1 through 10, as well as these other ones that you're going to be doing for the whole time, those are going to help open up your pathways and start letting things kind of get going and start clearing out. And then days 11 through 20 is the GX Assist. And those are kind of the bigger guns that really help things get going. It's got oregano, so they typically suggest that you only do 10 days at a time. However, remembering that everybody's different and everybody's individual. And so I know that there's a gal who was having she was having a chronic thing over her lifetime, and so she ended up needing, you know, she found that if she had the GX Assist every day, that's what her body needed in order to support a healthy digestion. And then days 21 through 30 are more replenishing. So PB Assist is your probiotic, and then the DDR Prime soft gels. And honestly, when I did this, I did the DDR Prime the entire 30 days too. And so this is like a very easy, gentle cleanse. It's not like something that you're going to need to stay home and close to the bathroom for the weekend. This is for a whole month. Another thing that's a good way to help detox is by adding lemon oil to your water, or you can do 4 drops of lemon oil, 4 drops of peppermint, and the juice of half a lemon in 8 ounces of water. And you drink that on an empty stomach, and that will also help detox. And I believe it helps with, especially with the liver. But that's a good kind of gentle detox. Now, there are other detoxes that are going to be more intense, and so that's going to be more like that we did like a kicking candida cleanse, and that's where you're going to be changing not only your supplements but what you're eating. You're going to be cutting out, you know, probably like, so what we did was you cut out pretty much everything except for like vegetables, like, so it was like smoothies, and so you'd have fruit, I think, in the morning with your smoothie, but besides that, it was pretty much vegetables. And then you did that for a week or so, and then you started adding things back in. But it was a 21-day cleanse, and it was pretty intense. And so there are definitely benefits to doing a more intense cleanse. So, but one of the things that they recommend that you do is that you want to cleanse more than like once a year. So I think they say like once a quarter. So every 3 to 4 months. And this cleanse is, if you come to here in the Daily Habits Kit, there's actually like a detox kit now. Let me see. Oops, sorry. Here we go. There we go, Cleanse and Restore Kit. So that's got your lifelong vitality, which you're going to also be taking days 1 through 30. So this is a great kit to get to help you with your cleanse. And it's also an enrolling kit. So if you, let's say that if you've got like family or friends that you want to do a cleanse with, sometimes you find, people find in general that if you've got accountability partners or people who are doing things with you, you're much more likely to actually do that, i.e. Carlin and getting us all walking. So, all right, let's see. Okay, grab a drink. Okay, so
Lynn, if you want to spearhead a month of a cleanse, I would join up.
Okay, let me figure out when I could do that.
Maybe January.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. January would be a good time. We could do that. I guess anybody who wanted to join in, we could have January, and we'll get prepared. That way you can get the kit ahead of time. Make sure that you have everything ready. Because if you fail to prepare, then you prepare to fail. Okay.
We're not failing.
No, we're thriving. Yeah. All right. Let me see. Oh, so just kind of to tie this all together. So one of the things that I got, I can't remember exactly where it was, what was in Dr. Hill's talk, but he was talking about how the essential oils really can help, well, he said control, but help with the expression. Well, I guess it was help control the expression and suppression of the different genes, and that the importance of the lifestyle portion, that's one thing that can really, that's one thing that's going to really make a difference.
And one other thing, and at first I thought I heard him wrong, but then he repeated it. So will lifelong vitality.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And they were talking like with the apoptosis, not only frankincense, but DDR prime is especially good for that. And speaking of genes, DDR prime stands for damaged DNA repair. So if you're looking for something to help damage DNA, I would say try that. And one of the things is you can get them as the capsules, but I ran out of capsules, but I've got several bottles. And so I just have an empty gel cap and just fill it with the DDR oil. But you can get them in soft gels. So let me see. So I think it's actually kind of a short class. It's because I was like had so much stuff. I was like trying to smush it all into one.
Can I add
Please, any comments?
I have a couple of comments. One is I bought the Unraveling Kit, and instead of using the skin texture for analyzing a person's system, it uses DNA. We got the kit, and Carlene's been looking it over, and we're not sure how it all works yet. But I think that people might want to get familiar with it, and like Taylor take it for a month, and the store take it for a while, and pass it around so people can have a chance to try it out. It's not free, so you want to try it out before you invest the money in your own. But I think it might be interesting for everybody to do. There's one more thing that Dr. Hill and Laura just kind of skimmed over, and that is this. The emotions, as affected by the oils, incidentally, are huge in expressing and suppressing DNA. And I want to tell you a story. Is this okay if I do this?
Absolutely. Yep, we've got time.
Years and years ago, like when in my early teens, I worked for Summer Hayes Music, and when I was there, and a friend of mine, a friend of the lady I worked under, she was the sheet music manager, came in and brought a new baby they had adopted. And the baby was about a year old and just the cutest little thing, and pink little cheeks, and she was all dressed just darling and a happy, bouncy child. And then they left, and my friend, her name was Georgia, the lady that worked there that I worked under, said that baby almost died before they adopted it. The baby had been in a home where the parents were smokers, drinkers, and just totally ignored the child completely, and she wasn't getting enough food and was never getting loved. And the baby was taken out of the home and put in a foster home where it got plenty of food, but the foster home was a place where it was just there waiting to be adopted. Then these people adopted the child, and she went from not even thriving to bouncy, healthy, almost overnight, gained the weight, started smiling, started responding to people because they were able to give her something that nobody else had, and that was just plain love. Love in a child like that is expressed by eye contact and sweet words. Those come out as loving to a child, especially one that's been neglected, and changes the expression of the DNA. That child might have been genetically given the genes to be 5'6", 120 pounds, and she was headed for maybe 4 foot tall, maybe 80, maybe death. Mm-hmm. But the caring for the child made a huge difference. Well, you guys, it applies to us as well. If you care about you, you can change your own DNA expression if you do the things your body needs. That means don't stick the garbage crap in your system and the garbage thoughts in your head. Give yourself the best and the kindness. And there are times when You have to protect yourself. Kathleen had an incident where somebody came into the store spewing hate, and she just had to get rid of the lady. Sorry, lady. I mean, it can't be. We protect ourselves in whatever way is necessary. The other thing, and this was so important to me in all three talks as I went through it, every situation, every step on the pyramid, every example of the genetic expression not being the very best can be influenced by essential oils.
Yep.
And I mean, I listened to what they were saying. It almost sounds like a fairy tale, but it isn't.
Mm-hmm.
It is not. One of the things I read today was from Laura, and she was talking about, or no, Al, one of them, the scriptures, actually, it's the DNC that says the herbs can make us well.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, they can. And we can do that for ourselves and help ourselves on that basis. You know, this is just so phenomenal. And it is, DNA is something that we can say, that we can talk about. And I didn't mean to take up all your time. I get excited about this, as you can tell, and I want to add those parts. Thank you very much.
No, don't be sorry. I appreciate it. And tonight was perfect because we had a little time, and it's kind of funny that you mentioned that because Laura at the end of the third one said, you know, do you Allison had to leave, and so it was just me, and she's like, do you have any last thoughts? And all of a sudden it was like, well, because we were talking about detox, I said, you know, it's really important to emotionally detox and to process emotions. And so like, that's one of the things that's kind of like one of my wheelhouse things is like helping figure out happiness. And one of the things that I've found very helpful is that there's only two healthy things you can do with the past: learn from it and forgive it. And everything else that you're doing with the past is not healthy. Now, it doesn't mean that you don't occasionally do it, but you don't want to move there, and you want to avoid it because that's, you know, like you're saying. And the essential oils are fantastic for helping with emotion, especially when you use them aromatically. I've got Console right here because I was making up some roll-ons for someone. And so like with the reverse rainbow, I love the emotional aromatherapy kit. That's one of the things that I use and recommend really frequently because, like she was talking about, you know, your emotions can also affect your DNA expression. And so she was talking about a baby, but like as an adult, one of the things that I had a doctor tell me is that when you get physically sick, when your body, it physically depresses your body, it depresses your immune system, it depresses everything. And therefore, your mood and emotions will follow whatever path. So it's very typical to, if you're not feeling well, and that's why people can have issues after you know, being ill for a long time or postpartum type thing. And that's like one thing that we have are the oils that are really, really good for that. That was one of the first things when I came into doTERRA. I thought my aunt had just passed away, and I thought I was handling things pretty well, and I realized I hadn't. and so I started using a ton of balance, and it really helped. It really made a difference. And so that was like my first experience with the essential oils of like, oh wow, they really do help not only physically but emotionally. So 2 thumbs up. Any other comments? All right. Well, thank you so much for coming and spending time with us. And I'm going to turn off the recording.